Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, bringing you a song-by-song review of every one that Uriah Heep has recorded in the studio. And we are working on the album Into the Wild. The 22nd album came out in April of 2011, and we are on song 10, T-Bird Angel. Making our way, we're almost done with this album actually already. It's hard to believe. It is Monday. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, probably still coming off of that holiday fog where, you feel like you should have another day off this week and you don't. But, the weekend will be here before you know it. These weeks are flying by, it seems. And I can't believe how fast 2021 passed. But it is 2022 now, and we have some things we need to get taken care of. We need to get this band inducted into the damn Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio. It has to happen. I found out that the Go-Go's were inducted, and they're a great band. Don't get me wrong. Are they rock and roll? They got a couple good songs that are, I would say, rock and roll, but I kind of consider them mostly pop. And I think of Uriah Heep as one of the four pioneers of the hard rock music that we have today, as it has evolved over the years. But I think of those four bands as Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, Led Zeppelin, and Black Sabbath. Those are the four bands that I think had the biggest influence on where we are. Of course, the Beatles and King Crimson and bands like that. But these are the guys that late 60s, early 70s changed the sound of rock music as we know it and had a big influence on that. Hendrix, of course, would be another one. I think it's time that this happens, and it's really easy. Just go to facebook.com/heaprockhall and put your name on the petition. You can also go to my website, scotthaskin.com, click on the Uriah Heep podcast link, and scroll down just a little ways, and you will see the link for the petition where you can put your name. It costs you nothing but a minute of your time. Please do that. Very important that we get these guys in there once and for all. They should have been in there a long time ago. So many people have been put in there that I think should have been much later entries. Not that they shouldn't belong in there, that they haven't had their place in music, but these guys, like I said, pioneers, those guys should have been in there first. So let's fix that error right now. ASAP as possible. Put your name on that petition if you haven't already. And please tell others. That's the other thing you could do. Spread the word. The more names we get on that petition, the better chance we have of making it happen. I don't have Lars Ulrich's number, so I can't call him up and have him lobby for this, although he has said in the past that he thought they deserved to be in there. So, Lars, I'm with you on that. Let's make it happen for 2022's induction ceremony. So, we got a couple cool things. If you haven't already checked it out, Uriah Heep and BMG put out the Everyday Rocks box set, 7 picture discs, 7 t-shirts, a wall calendar, inspiring lyrics from the songs, just an amazing review of the band's first 7 albums. Beautiful artwork, some restored artwork, some newly created artwork that was taken from the 50th anniversary box set bonus parts. And it's a really beautiful package. I did a review of it on iTunes where I walked through every single piece that's in the box. And it also comes in a beautiful decorative box that will sit on your shelf quite nicely as well. I will warn you, it is very heavy because there's a lot of stuff in there. But it's a really, really cool package, guys. Also, you can still pick up a copy of Choices. The CDs are individually designed by the band members themselves. Hey, if you want to get to know Uriah Heep through the eyes of Mick Box, listen to Mick Box's playlist. If you want to get to know them through the eyes of Ken Hensley, do the same. Bernie Shaw, do the same. Phil Lanzon. There's a bunch of them in there. Paul Newton. It's a really cool box set. The 50th anniversary had some of these in there, but they have added to it and made it its own box set now. So it's reaching some of the more current members of the band, and it's a really, really cool package, guys. So check that out. Very reasonably priced, I might add. That is what is happening in that world. Now, I want to thank some of the people who have made a big difference in the show, starting with, of course, my patrons, my beloved patrons. Love you guys. At the $5 Easy Living tier, we have Brad D and Kenny Wymore. At the $3 The Wizard tier, we have William Rose, Frank Teelgaard Mortensen, Goran Eriksson, and Peter Voss. And at the $1 Traveler in Time tier, Scent Unknown, we have Airtight Gravesite. Thank you all very, very much. Your donations have meant so much to me. Every month, I just smile when I see the board change a little bit, and I see that you've all stuck with me for so long. Really makes all the difference for me, and to know that I'm bringing you something that you find enjoyable and interesting and has that value that you would want to do that. So that being said, there are a couple other people. I don't often talk about them, but Cakewalk by BandLab is the digital audio workstation, or DAW, that I use to write or do the podcast. And I run it outside for a couple of filters, but everything pretty much happens inside of Cakewalk. I have done a couple of podcast tutorials on YouTube. I may update those at some point as I'm looking at changing a couple of things in the process to maybe streamline it even more than I already have it. But yeah, Cakewalk has been a huge thing. I've been with them since version, I think it was 4.3, when they were still Cakewalk, owned by 12 Tone Systems decades ago, like the late 90s, I think. And a great, great product, and I've been a big fan. I've tried other things like Pro Tools and Digital Performer, but it's kind of the one that you learn first, that you know the best and you can work the quickest in. Also, it's free. They used to charge a lot of money for this. Gibson was charging for all these updates. And when BandLab bought it away from Gibson, they said it's going to be free. I imagine at some point there will be some paid features, which I wouldn't be surprised at. But I've talked to BandLab, and they said, no, their intention is that Cakewalk will be free for all time. Very, very cool thing, considering the cost of Pro Tools. It's a cool program. It does some cool stuff. But honestly, Cakewalk does everything Pro Tools can do, just in a different way. Every individual DAW has its own way of doing things. So if you're looking for one, or you're looking to switch to one, please check out Cakewalk by BandLab. Also, Podbean, the distributor of this podcast, does a great job every time I just upload it, and it magically appears on all the sites such as Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all the places. Wherever you're listening, that's where it appears. And I want to thank everybody who has shared the podcast. It means a lot to me. I see your comments on Podbean, and I still, from time to time, will check the reviews on iTunes / Apple Podcasts. And I want to thank you guys all who have left reviews, everyone who has shared the show. There's like 500,000 plus followers for Uriah Heep on Spotify, and they don't all know about the podcast. So thank you for helping to continue to get the word out and help connect those people to this show. If they're fans of the band, they may enjoy it. Some may not, but hopefully most will. I also want to thank my buddy Scott Lozinski, who did the most amazing job on the logos. Everyone at Audionamics, who are just the sweetest people, and they make this great program called Instant Dialogue Cleaner, which is why my voice sounds so crystal clear and clean without all the background noise, such as the airplanes or dogs or playing children outside my window. They do a very efficient job of keeping the podcast sounding clean. So if you do a podcast, or even if you're like a dialogue person, maybe you do an audio blog, or you're a voice artist or something, it's a great program to check out. Also very inexpensive. It's under $100. You just need an iLock. That's it. And most of you probably have one already. Also, my buddy Dave White, the Uriah Heep social media director, or Uriah Heep director of social media. And he is just an amazing guy. Been a guest on the show many times. He spreads the word of this podcast. He gets up early. He listens to it, puts it out on Twitter and Facebook. And he has such great insight into the band. He's been with them for a long time. And I always love when he comes on the show. So thank you, Dave, for all the hard work you do. Also, he runs the Uriah-Heep.com website, as well as Mick-Box.net. He does both of those websites, hundreds of pages of stuff to peruse. All things Uriah Heep, all things Mick Box. They're just treasure troves of information, and you should go check them out. There's also the merch store at the Uriah Heep one. You should go check that out as well. So last but not least, my brothers in the Deep Dive Podcast Network, the Deep Purple Podcast, Skinnerd Reconsidered, T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side, Sabbath Bloody Podcast, In the Lap of the Pods, Hawk Binge, Maiden A to Z, Diary of the Madmen, the Ultimate Ozzy Podcast, Universally Speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers Podcast, and the Metal Gods Podcast. I mean, so many podcasts to listen to after you listen to this one. Just saying. But they're all great and all wonderful people. I've met all of them, over the internet. Some of them have been on the show. Just a great network of people. I'm very honored to be a part of that. And of course, my buddy Brandon over at Metallicast, serving up all things Metallica. Allegra over at gottahearemall.com has done an amazing job with the website, bringing you the live histories of bands such as Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. A couple of my other favorite bands that I just love. Ace on Music on Stitcher, and on YouTube, it's Ace the Music Man, the band's manager, who also manages bands like Thin Lizzy and recently acquired the Graham Bonnet Band, which I'm very excited about. I know Graham and Bethany Heavenstone, the bass player. They are wonderful, wonderful people. I interviewed them on my other show over the summer. And Graham did a review with me of Assault Attack by Michael Schenker. You might also know him from the band Alcatraz. And a great singer. His time in Rainbow is a very special time for me. I love Down to Earth album. And he and I, I'm sure at some point we'll be talking about that one. But anyway, Ace is managing them as well now. So you should go check out his show where he talks about a lot of amazing things about the music industry that I didn't know. A lot of stuff, and about how it's evolving with the way that we're buying concert tickets now for venues during COVID and all kinds of stuff. So check it out. It's a very, very good show to listen to. The links for all these things, guys, are in the show notes. And if you're not able to click on them because some of the podcast outlets, the links are not clickable. The links are always clickable. And you can go to the website, scotthaskin.com, Uriah Heep Podcast, click that link and just go to the bottom. And that's where the links to all these shows are, if you can't find them in your podcast player. So that all being said, let's get in today's song, the 10th track on Into the Wild. Here is T-Bird Angel by Uriah Heep. There is a little click right after the organ first starts. There's the low note that kicks in, which is just rumbly and vibrating and really cool. And it kind of makes me feel like I'm sitting on a motorcycle with the engine revving. But then as the other notes start coming in, there's just a little bit of a click there. So I'm not sure if that was the digital download or if it was something that's actually in the song itself. I can't say. But anyway, it's a very cool intro. I like this riff because it's very simple. There's no faster playing in it. So that being said, you could actually hear the keyboard and guitar on every note. Sometimes when there's a little faster playing, as we've heard on some of these other riffs, when Mick and Phil are doubling each other, there is a little bit of loss in the organ dynamics. And you don't get that with a riff like this because there's nothing that's fast enough to cause that to happen. But it's really cool. It's a nice up-tempo opening, really strong drum sound, really, really cool. Let's see what happens.
She's got me going crazy, right over the speed of sound. And I swear if she knew what she could do, this thing would leave the ground. She's got a streamline body, shines like pearls in a rich man's eyes. She's there on the list of desire. Won't you let me take my prize?
Well, I really love the drums during this verse. It's interesting when you throw some toms in there, just a little bit more color. It's a tool that the drummers don't use a lot, but it's one that when they do, and they do it tastefully like it's done here, it just makes a different feel for the song. And I really like that. On the melodic side, the organ is definitely dominating over the guitar through the verse, but it seems like everything is really backed off to allow for the vocals. The vocals almost seem a little bit loud, but I think it's that the music is just a little quieter than normal. So maybe they compressed it down just a bit more than some of the other songs. But Bernie's voice, strong as ever. Nice to hear him back on the lead vocals. So great a singer. I wanted to mention too, as a drummer, I'm very well aware of this, and I mentioned it, I know, on at least one other show, but maybe this is the first show that you're listening to and you're curious. So it's not often that drummers play a ride cymbal through a verse. Usually it's hi-hat. It can be a ride, but usually when it's a ride, it's in a situation like this, where you're going to be doing something else with your snare hand. You're going to be playing the snare, but you're going to be doing something else, whether it's ticks on a cymbal, whether it's toms. Playing the ride allows you to free up your snare hand because your arms aren't crossed. When you're playing a hi-hat, your arms are crossed. When you're playing the ride, your other hand, I'm a right-handed drummer, so I'll use that as the example because most drummers are, your right hand is not crossed to the left on the hi-hat, it's over to the right on the ride. So your left hand or your snare hand is then freed up to play around a little bit more because you don't have to cross over or worried about hitting the stick on stick. It just allows you a lot more freedom. Plus, I think it actually sounds really good. I like the ride on this. I think it just adds a good sound. I think it works better than a hi-hat would on this one. That was a cool change after the solo. I like that. I would like to hear more of that, maybe with a little bit of a build up into another part would be nice. But the song is only, around 4 minutes. So we're probably not going to get that, I would imagine. However, I noticed that in that part, Mick's guitar was a little bit quiet, and that explains why I'm hearing more organ during the verse. But they turned it up for the solo, which was good. It was probably on a separate track. So they mixed that in a little bit louder. I could have even used a little bit more volume on that, but that was a pretty wild solo. I liked it, though. I feel it was kind of like that raw power of the engine I was talking about that I felt at the beginning. So that really tracks for me. I think it fit in well. I really do like the chorus. I don't think I mentioned that before. I love that starting out on the higher note and then coming down. It feels like, you're starting off with that passion of the I need this kind of feel. And Bernie, of course, pulls it off very, very well. And it's a very powerful song. It's a good mid-tempo. I would have probably wanted to see it a little earlier on the album, maybe after Trail of Diamonds instead of this close to the end, because we only have one more proper song on the album, Kiss of Freedom. And this feels like an earlier album track to me at this tempo. But either way, it's a good song. I'm digging it.
One temptation. To handle on the road where she belongs. We're burning out on the highway, me with my foot on the floor. No wonder everybody goes crazy. Gotta drive this T-Bird more. I gotta have this T-Bird angel so we can fly away. I gotta
I don't know. I don't like those backing vocals. I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't know. They seem almost a little bit commercial sounding to me for some reason. I don't know what it is. From a musical standpoint, I mean, they're fine. There's just something about it from the writing standpoint that it feels almost like we're trying to do something that we think would be a single. And I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying that's just the impression I'm getting out of it. There's just something off about it to me. And that's fascinating because I don't think I've ever had anything bad to say about the backing vocals before. I like that they're present. I like that they added something in here, but maybe it's just the timing of it because they're so far off from where the lead vocal is, trying to fill in that other pocket, that it just doesn't work for me. It sounds too commercial, we want to get on the radio. Interesting.
I
Well, this song took a real turn for me here. That whole last section was kind of awkward. I found it awkward the way Mick's solo came back in. It was like he was struggling to get altitude there. It just sounded weird to where it started. And then it ended on a weird bit too, because it was like, playing some higher notes and then just dropped down, which felt a little bit awkward to me. I kind of wish maybe the song had gone on a couple more measures to give him a little bit room to finish where he was going with that, because I liked where it was headed, and then as the music drops out and then we've got Bernie continuing to repeat the line, that was a little awkward for me because there was nothing there backing him up really. So I don't know, that was like the last 30 seconds of the song or so was kind of weird for me, but the rest of it was great. I loved it. It's a great, powerful song. Definitely has its place on this album. But I don't know. I feel like there's just something off here. The positioning of it on the album, the couple of bits that seem weird to me. But overall, it's still a good song. I still really liked it. And I mean, you guys know I'm pretty optimistic about things. Even if I don't like something, there's a lot of times I can still find something good in it. And there's a lot of good in this song. I don't have to search at all by any means. But just the last 30 seconds of the song just kind of threw me a little bit. But glad they did it. I'm glad they recorded it and released it, because I think that people would enjoy the song when they hear it. And yeah, that's it, guys. That's our Monday episode. So we will see you tomorrow as we are getting near the end of Into the Wild, where we are coming up on our final band member change. And we've got 2 songs to go. We've got Kiss of Freedom, which is the last song on the album, and then the bonus track, Hard Way to Learn. And we are going to cover both of those this week. Already, man, time is flying. And then we will be on to album 23, one away from the current album that's been released with a new one on the way. Good stuff. So much great music from this band. And I really like the drums on this song too. I like the toms being in there. That's a good dynamic. That's a good trick to pull out for a drummer from time to time. And good song. And the sound overall, like I said, was good. I thought Mick's guitar was a little bit quiet at parts, but for the most part, it's a really, really good mix. Love the drum sound. The bass blended in pretty well. It didn't really stand out to me in this song, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad mix. If Trevor was playing along with Mick and Phil, then it's not surprising at all. It would have just blended in with those sounds. Bass does tend to do that if you're following along with the band, unless it's something where, you're playing really low and those low frequencies are going to stand out. But if you're playing, an octave or two above that, then it's got a good chance it's just going to blend into what you're playing if you're just playing along with the guitar and keyboard. But yeah, great song. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you have a great day. Start to your week, guys. Tomorrow, Kiss of Freedom. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!